Ma'am, we got a call about someone acting suspicious back here. I need you to come up front with me.
I'm shopping. I haven't hidden anything. Everything I've picked up is right here in my hands.
Ma'am, the call said you'd been back here a long time without checking out. Now I need you to come up front. I won't ask again.
Taking a long time to shop is not a crime.
Can you...
Cashier Meryl Tatum didn't like the way the woman was shopping. So she made a call that would end 2 careers and make national headlines. She told the responding officer there was a suspicious black woman taking too long in the toiletries aisle, and Officer Rex Dunford showed up ready to make an arrest, not ask a question. He blocked the exit, raised his voice, and treated her like a criminal in front of a store full of witnesses. What neither of them knew was that the woman standing calmly in front of that body cam was the sitting district attorney of Mecklenburg County. And every second of what they just did was now evidence. Before we go further, what city or country are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. We love seeing where you're tuning in from here on Deep Truth. If you believe that no one, regardless of their badge or their register, should have the power to criminalize a black woman for simply shopping, then hit the like and subscribe button. This one is going to matter. It was a Tuesday morning in late October when Seville Drummond pulled her silver Lexus ES350 into the parking lot of Bella Beauty Supply, located at 4712 Prosperity Church Road in the Harrisburg corridor of Charlotte, North Carolina. The strip mall it sat in, Prosperity Commons, was the kind of place locals knew well. A nail salon on the left, a Caribbean takeout spot on the right, and Bella Beauty anchoring the center unit with its bold red signage and window display full of edge control jars and braiding hair. It was the kind of store Seville had been coming to since she was 19 years old. Nothing about that morning felt different to her. Seville was 44. She had natural hair she maintained with precision, a skincare routine she took seriously, and a schedule that left almost no room for personal errands during the week. That Tuesday was a rare exception. Court wasn't until 2 o'clock. Her first meeting had been pushed back. She had a window, maybe 90 minutes, and she used it the way any woman would. She changed out of her blazer in the car, threw on a zip-up hoodie over her blouse, grabbed her tote bag from the passenger seat, and walked in. What nobody in that store knew, not yet, was that Seville Drummond had been the district attorney of Mecklenburg County for 6 years. Before that, she'd spent 11 years as a prosecutor, trying everything from armed robbery to homicide. She had stood in front of juries, cross-examined detectives, and reviewed more body cam footage than most officers ever recorded. She knew the law the way a carpenter knows wood. By feel, by grain, by what happens when you cut against it. But none of that was visible when she walked through the door of Bella Beauty Supply that morning. She was just a woman in a hoodie with a tote bag and a shopping list. She needed a few specific things. A sulfate-free co-wash she'd been running low on, a particular edge control that only 2 stores in Charlotte consistently stocked, and a deep conditioning treatment her sister had recommended the week before. She had the brand names written in the Notes app on her phone, and she moved through the store with the quiet focus of someone who knew what they came for. She wasn't rushing. She wasn't browsing aimlessly. She was simply a woman taking her time in a store, the way women do. The store itself was moderately busy for a Tuesday morning. 2 women near the back were comparing lace-front options, holding them up against the fluorescent light. A young mother was navigating the narrow hair care aisle with a stroller. An older gentleman sat on the bench near the entrance, waiting, by all appearances, for his wife. The overhead speakers were playing a low mix of R&B. Nothing loud, nothing remarkable. It was an ordinary morning inside an ordinary store. Meryl Tatum had been working the register at Bella Beauty Supply for about 14 months. She was 31, sharp-eyed, and by most accounts efficient at her job. She knew the inventory, she processed transactions quickly, and she rarely needed to be told something twice. But co-workers who had worked alongside her long enough had noticed something else about Meryl. A pattern, quiet and consistent, of watching certain customers differently. Not all customers, certain ones. It lived in how long her eyes followed someone down an aisle, in the way she'd pick up the phone and pretend to make a call while keeping her gaze locked across the store, in the small, almost imperceptible shift in her posture, when a black woman came in alone, took her time, and didn't head straight to the register. She noticed Seville the moment she walked in. There was nothing unusual about Seville's behavior. Nothing that would have registered to anyone else in that store as anything other than a woman shopping. But Meryl Tatum's eyes found her within 30 seconds of her entry and didn't fully let go. She watched Seville move from the co-wash section to the edge control display. She watched her pick up a jar, read the label, set it down, and pick up another. She watched her pull out her phone, not to pocket anything, not to conceal anything, but to cross-check the brand name against her notes. To Meryl, that motion, a woman checking her phone in a beauty supply store, looked like something else entirely. 12 minutes passed. Seville was still in the conditioning treatment section, reading the back of a deep conditioner with the kind of focus the product probably didn't deserve. She was comparing protein content. She was being thorough. She had not placed a single item in her tote bag. Everything she'd selected was in her hands or tucked under her arm, visible as she made her way slowly toward a decision. Meryl picked up the store phone. She didn't call the store manager. Delia Fontaine's office was 30 feet away, behind a door with a frosted glass panel that was clearly visible from the register. Meryl didn't walk over. She didn't send a text on the staff channel. She dialed 911, and when the dispatcher answered, she spoke in a low, clipped voice and said there was a woman in the store who had been walking around for a while and hadn't checked out, and that she was concerned about possible theft. The dispatcher asked if she had seen the woman conceal any merchandise. Meryl paused. Then she said she hadn't seen it directly, but that it looked suspicious. That call, 4 minutes and 17 seconds long, later pulled as evidence, was the moment everything in Seville Drummond's Tuesday changed. She didn't know it yet. She was still in the conditioning treatment aisle, still reading labels, still doing exactly what she came to do. She had no idea that a woman behind a register 40 feet away had just described her to a 911 dispatcher as a threat. She had no idea that a patrol car was already turning off of West Mallard Creek Church Road and heading toward Prosperity Church Road with its GPS locked on Bella Beauty Supply. She had no idea that Officer Rex Dunford was 3 minutes away. Rex Dunford had been with the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department for 9 years. He was 41, broad-shouldered, and carried himself with the particular confidence of a man who had rarely been challenged in a professional setting and had stopped expecting to be. His record wasn't clean. 2 prior complaints filed against him in the last 4 years, both involving what the department's own internal review had described as disproportionate escalation during routine calls. Neither complaint had resulted in disciplinary action. Both had been quietly closed. He was, by the department's official position, an officer in good standing. He pulled into the Prosperity Commons parking lot at 10:22 a.m., didn't pause at the entrance, and walked straight to the register where Meryl Tatum was waiting. She pointed toward the back of the store without saying a word. Rex Dunford didn't reach for his notepad. He didn't ask Meryl what she had actually seen. He turned in the direction she pointed and started walking. And his body cam, clipped to his chest and already recording, captured every step of what happened next. Seville Drummond looked up from the conditioner in her hand when she heard footsteps stop beside her. She registered the uniform first, then the expression. Not neutral, not inquisitive. Already decided. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to come with me to the front." Seville looked at him. Then she looked at the conditioner in her hand. Then she looked back at him. "I'm sorry? You've been back here a while. We've had a concern called in. I need you to come up front." She didn't move immediately. Not out of defiance, out of the same instinct that made her good at her job. She was already processing, already listening to what was being said, and, more importantly, what wasn't. A concern about what, exactly? Rex Dunford took one step closer. His body cam kept recording. "Ma'am, I won't ask again." Rex Dunford had already made up his mind before he said another word. That much was clear from the way he was standing. He wasn't there to investigate. He wasn't there to ask questions or figure out what had actually happened in that store. He had received a call, he had walked in, and somewhere between the parking lot and the conditioning treatment aisle, He had already decided what kind of situation this was and who the guilty party was. Seville Drummond could see it in his posture. She had spent 17 years in courtrooms studying exactly that kind of body language. The set jaw, the squared shoulders, the eyes that had stopped taking in new information. She recognized it immediately. She just hadn't expected to be on this side of it. "Ma'am, I need you to put the merchandise down and come with me." Seville set the conditioner down on the shelf slowly and deliberately. Not because she was complying out of fear, but because she wanted every motion she made to be calm, visible, and impossible to misread. She had nothing to hide, and she was going to make sure that was obvious to everyone in that store, including the body cam on Rex Dunford's chest that she had already clocked the moment he walked up. "Can you tell me what this is about?" she asked. Her voice was even. "We received a report of possible theft. I need you to come to the front of the store." "I haven't taken anything," she said. "Everything I've picked up is in my hands or under my arm. You can see that." Dunford didn't look at her hands. He didn't look at what she was holding. He gestured toward the front of the store and took a step to the side in a way that was less of an invitation and more of a direction. The kind of move designed to make someone feel like they had no choice but to move. Seville recognized that too. She had seen it in testimony more times than she could count. She walked toward the front. Not because she felt she'd done something wrong, but because she understood better than most people in that building what happened when a black woman didn't move when an officer told her to, regardless of whether the officer had any legal basis for the request. She understood the math of that moment in a way that was deeply personal and professionally informed. So she walked, and Dunford followed close behind her. Closer than was necessary, closer than was professional. All the way to the front of the store where Merrill Tatum was standing behind the register, watching with her arms folded. The other customers had gone quiet. The two women who had been comparing lace fronts in the back had stopped talking. The young mother with the stroller had moved her child slightly behind her instinctively. The older man near the entrance had straightened up on the bench. Everyone in Bella Beauty Supply was watching now, and the store that had felt ordinary 20 minutes ago felt like something else entirely. Dunford positioned himself between Seville and the exit. That detail mattered. He wasn't standing beside her. He wasn't standing across from her. He placed himself between her and the door, which meant that regardless of what he said next, the physical message was already clear. She was not free to leave. There had been no arrest. There had been no evidence of any crime. There had been no search, no question about a receipt, no request to check her bag with her consent. And yet the exit was blocked. "I'm going to need to see some ID," Dunford said. "On what basis?" Seville asked. His jaw tightened. "Ma'am, don't make this harder than it needs to be." "I'm not making anything hard," she said, still calm. "I'm asking a legal question. You've blocked my exit and asked for my identification. I'd like to know the legal basis for that request." That was the moment the temperature in the room changed. Not because Seville raised her voice. She didn't. Not because she made any sudden movement. She stood completely still. It changed because she had asked him a question he wasn't prepared to answer, in language that made it clear she wasn't asking out of nervousness. She was asking because she knew the answer he was supposed to give, and she already knew he didn't have one. Dunford stepped closer. "I'm not going to stand here and debate the law with you." "I'm not debating," she said. "I'm asking. You were observed acting suspiciously in this store, and I have the right to—" "Observed doing what, specifically?" she said. "Shopping? Because that's what I was doing. I've been in the store for less than 20 minutes. I have not concealed a single item, and every product I touched is either on that shelf or visible in my hands. So I'd like to know what specific behavior triggered this call, and I'd like to know what legal authority you're operating under right now." The store was completely silent. Merrill Tatum had stopped folding her arms. She was gripping the edge of the counter now, and something in her expression had shifted not into remorse, not yet, but into the early recognition that this was not going the way she had expected. She had made a call. The officer had shown up. That was supposed to be the end of it. The woman was supposed to be embarrassed, supposed to apologize, supposed to leave. That was the unspoken script. Nobody had told Meryl that the woman she called the police on would stand at her register and dismantle the situation with the precision of someone who had done this professionally for 2 decades. Dunford reached out and put his hand on Seville's arm. Not a grab, not a full restraint, but contact. Uninvited, unnecessary, and caught in full on the body cam that was still recording every second of this. Seville looked down at his hand on her arm, then she looked up at him. "Do not touch me," she said quietly. "I have not been placed under arrest. I have not been told I am being detained under any lawful authority, and I am telling you clearly, do not touch me." Dunford did not remove his hand immediately. That hesitation, just a few seconds long, would later be one of the most reviewed moments in the entire footage. It was at that exact moment that the door to the back office opened. Delia Fontaine stepped out. Delia Fontaine had been the store manager of Bella Beauty Supply for 11 years. She knew every shelf, every product, every regular customer by face, if not by name. She had stepped out of her office because she had heard the tone of the store change, not loud, not chaotic, but the particular kind of quiet that told her something was wrong. The store had gone still in a way that didn't happen during normal transactions. So she came out. She took in the scene in about 3 seconds. Officer Dunford standing with his hand on a woman's arm. Meryl at the register gripping the counter. Every customer in the store frozen in place. And the woman at the center of it all. Standing straight, composed, not crying, not pleading, just watching Delia walk toward her with the steady eyes of someone who had been waiting for a single reasonable adult to enter the room. Delia looked at the woman's face, and she stopped walking. Not because she was confused, because she recognized her. It took less than 2 seconds, and when it landed hard. The color shifted in Delia's face. Her mouth opened slightly. She looked at Dunford. She looked at Meryl. She looked back at the woman standing in the middle of her store with the officer's hand on her arm and products she had been fully intending to purchase stacked visibly in her hands. Delia Fontaine said 4 words. "That is District Attorney." She didn't say it loudly. She didn't need to. The store was so quiet that those 4 words landed like something dropped on a concrete floor. Flat, hard, final. Rex Dunford's hand came off Seville's arm. Not gradually, not professionally. It came off the way a hand comes off something hot, fast, involuntary, the body reacting before the mind could construct a reason. He took a half step back, and for the first time since he had walked into that store, he looked uncertain. The expression that had been fixed and decided since the moment he arrived cracked open just enough to let something else through. Not remorse. Not yet. Something closer to the dawning awareness that he had made a very serious mistake in a very public place in front of a running body cam. Meryl Tatum let go of the counter. She didn't say anything. She just stood there behind the register looking at the woman she had called the police on. Really looking at her. Maybe for the first time since she had walked in. And the silence coming from Meryl in that moment said everything that words would have failed to cover. Seville Drummond had not moved. She was standing in the exact same spot, the same posture, the same calm she had carried from the moment Dunford first approached her in the conditioning aisle. She had not needed Delia Fontaine to validate her. She had not needed anyone in that store to recognize her title for her to know her rights. But she watched what recognition did to the room, and she let it sit there, unrushed, the way a prosecutor lets a piece of evidence sit in front of a jury, long enough for everyone to fully understand what they're looking at. She turned to Rex Dunford. "I want your badge number," she said, "and I want a copy of that body cam footage preserved. Today." Dunford didn't respond right away. He was still recalibrating, still processing the gap between the situation he thought he had walked into and the one he was now standing inside of. He reached up, almost by reflex, and gave her his badge number. His voice was flat when he said it. The authority he had carried into that store 20 minutes ago had quietly left the building. Seville took out her phone, typed the number in, and looked at Meryl. She didn't yell. She didn't threaten. She just looked at her the way someone looks at a decision that has already been made. Not with anger, but with the cold clarity of someone who knows exactly what comes next and is in absolutely no hurry, because the outcome is no longer in doubt. Meryl opened her mouth and closed it. There was nothing to say. The 911 call was already on record. The body cam had been running the entire time. Every customer in that store was a witness, and the woman she had reported for suspicious behavior was the chief law enforcement officer of Mecklenburg County, the same office that worked directly alongside the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department every single day. Delia Fontaine looked at Meryl from across the counter with an expression that needed no translation. Seville picked up her tote bag, walked to the register, and paid for every item she came in for. Then she walked out. Seville Drummond drove back to her office on East Trade Street, sat down at her desk, and made 3 phone calls. The first was to her personal attorney. The second was to the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department's Internal Affairs Division. The third was to the Mecklenburg County Legal Records Office to formally request that Rex Dunford's body cam footage be preserved and logged as potential evidence. All 3 calls were made before noon. By the time she walked into her 2 o'clock court hearing that afternoon, the machinery had already started moving. And it did not stop. Within 48 hours of the incident, Internal Affairs had opened a formal review of Rex Dunford's conduct. The body cam footage was pulled, logged, and reviewed by 3 separate supervisors. What they watched was not ambiguous. There was no angle of interpretation that made it look acceptable. A woman had been shopping. She had concealed nothing. She had been calm, clear, and cooperative in every way that the law required her to be. And an officer had blocked her exit, demanded her identification without legal basis, and placed his hand on her body without cause. All of it recorded in clear, unbroken footage from the moment he entered the store to the moment his hand came off her arm. The 2 prior complaints against Dunford, the ones that had been quietly closed without disciplinary action, were reopened. What investigators found when they looked at those cases again, this time with fresh eyes and institutional pressure, was a pattern that should have been addressed years earlier. Both complaints involved Black women. Both involved escalation during calls that had no basis for physical contact. Both had been filed, reviewed briefly, and shelved. They had not disappeared from the record. They had simply been ignored. This time, they were not ignored. Rex Dunford was placed on administrative leave within 72 hours of the incident at Bella Beauty Supply. His union representative issued a statement calling the review process premature. The department issued its own statement saying the matter was being taken seriously. Neither statement changed what the footage showed. 6 weeks after that Tuesday morning in October, Rex Dunford was formally terminated from the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department. 9 years of service, ended by 20 minutes of a body cam he had turned on himself. He appealed the termination. The appeal was reviewed and denied. The civil lawsuit came shortly after. Seville filed through her personal attorney, and the case was built on 3 clear pillars: unlawful detainment, excessive contact without cause, and racial discrimination in the application of both. The 911 call recording was entered as evidence. The body cam footage was entered as evidence. Witness statements from 4 customers who had been inside Bella Beauty Supply that morning were entered as evidence. The case was not complicated. It was not a close call. It was a documented sequence of events with multiple corroborating sources, and it moved through the legal process with the kind of momentum that comes when the facts are not in dispute. The city of Charlotte settled. The terms were not disclosed publicly in full, but what was confirmed was that a settlement had been reached and that it included policy reform requirements attached to the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, specifically around the handling of retail theft calls and the standards for physical contact during non-arrest interactions. The settlement was not just a check. It was a structural change put in writing, with accountability measures attached. Meryl Tatum did not survive the fallout either. Bella Beauty Supply terminated her employment within 2 weeks of the incident. The store released a brief public statement expressing regret for what had occurred on their premises and confirming that the employee responsible for the 911 call was no longer with the company. Delia Fontaine, who had stepped out of that back office and said the 4 words that collapsed the entire situation in an instant, kept her position. She later gave a statement to local press saying simply that she had recognized a customer and told the truth about who she was. She didn't frame it as heroism, she framed it as basic decency. Seville Drummond gave one interview after the settlement was finalized. She was measured, direct, and said what needed to be said without performance or bitterness. She pointed out that the outcome of that day had nothing to do with her title. It had to do with the fact that she knew her rights, she stayed calm, and the body cam told the truth. She said the title simply made it harder to ignore. She said that was the problem. She was right. Because for every Seville Drummond who walks into a store and knows exactly what to say and exactly what to do, there are thousands of women who don't have that armor. Women who get frightened. Women who don't know they can ask for a badge number. Women who walk away shaken and never file a report and never see a single consequence follow the person who humiliated them. This story ended in accountability. Not every story does. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to see it. And if you've been watching Deep Truth for a while and haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. Every story we tell is about one thing: the truth on record for everyone to see. We'll see you in the next one.